Hey everybody, welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and I'm in shock. I'll be honest. I've been talking with Lindsay Glazer. I'm so happy to have you here. Lindsay, are you there?
I'm here. What's up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lindsay. We've already had some conversations just so I could get my mind wrapped around this verdict because honestly, I want to be perfectly honest. I'm just shocked by this verdict that Johnny Depp, he lost his libel case against Amber Heard. Got to be careful on the topics we talk about because the reason he's suing, even the term that it's up against, YouTube doesn't let us discuss. So I want to just step back a little bit more broadly as to what happened here, how this might have happened. And because I look, there's a part of me that was originally like, oh my God, well then might he be lying? But the more I think about this, the more bias I'm seeing in the verdict. And I wanted to get a real legal expert in here to try and help me coach through this. So Lindsay, thank you. So first of all, you're shocked by this too, right? Based off of stuff, because you're not obviously his lawyer, you're not following it exactly, but based off what you heard and the evidence you saw from both sides, this was a pretty shocking ruling, no?
Yeah, no. To me, it was pretty surprising considering the amount of evidence that's come out in America with Amber Heard admitting she's him more than once on tape.
Right, and so that alone feels like is not in it. So the judge ruled that the newspaper's allegations calling him the words here were substantially true. So what does that mean, substantially true?
It means more, like the way they seem to be using this is more likely than not, which in America would be the preponderance of evidence standard, which really means they only have to be 51% sure, no more, no less. 51% sure that it's more likely than not that Johnny Depp did those things. And what is shocking to me is the actual use of the word that we can't say on YouTube. Not just that the incidents might have happened, but they can use that word that has such a negative connotation that it is easily seeable, even to the average layperson, that Depp has lost work in both England and America from it.
Right, which he totally did. And so where I'm confused trying to do this, because objectively, like, to me, the case really isn't about her, even though it's confusing and complicated. He's also going to be suing her later, and this could obviously have serious ramifications towards that, which I want to get to. But the case is really, did the Sun print a lie? Is really what this case was. Did it defame him, and can they stand by the fact that that was true? So the case then morphed into, well, was he? And did the Sun have enough information to actually print such a salacious headline? There is really what this comes down to. And then what's frustrating to me is as it continued to, as the judge sort of shared his ruling, which I have here, it was not only that, but she goes in and says, made a ruling about how she was not a gold digger. And I just like, the more I read what he wrote, I'm just the more like, what does this have to do with it? The question is, did they defame it? And the question of, did the words the Sun printed work? But then he goes off and makes a point to even not only makes it very clear that he believes Amber Heard. He goes on and says, a reoccurring theme in the evidence was that Miss Heard had constructed a hoax and that she had done this and it was an insurance policy and that Miss Heard was a gold digger. I do not accept this characterization of Miss Heard. I mean, what's frustrating to me is like, it's very clear that she lied. I mean, the evidence showed this tremendously. I mean, the whole Australia incident, which her own assistant came in and put against her and made very clear that she had to forge documents to do this sort of stuff. I mean, isn't that stuff pretty damning to be 1% in doubt of this person's character, Lindsay?
I mean, it certainly calls in the credibility of Miss Heard, and you have to wonder what happened in that courtroom to make the judge think that person who's been proven to lie more than once and forge documents to determine that person is more credible than Depp.
Right, the same person who, again, I got to be careful with the words I use, but who clearly did some stuff to Depp on tape, admitting so, not being, him as well. To me, that also puts into the doubt the credibleness of this person. So, go ahead.
And even also, the Sun's credibility in general has already been questioned before. That's what blows my mind. First off, the Sun is a tabloid.
Total tabloid.
Second off, they got in trouble about 4 years ago for their coverage of Liverpool when they covered those allegations. Allegations where four people died in Liverpool.
Right.
Under the headline, "The Truth," which was later proven that the stuff they covered was false. So the Sun's credibility is already at issue.
Right, which is what this paper was about, and maybe that was a problem in the case and what they did, because it really should have been about the Sun and how do you have this much evidence to prove it, and then how much did they actually have before printing it, all that. But regardless of all that, the fact that the judge made these rulings, and you can, here's Mr. Depp's statement back. The decision is perverse and bewildering, she said. Most troubling is the judge's reliance on the testimony of Amber Heard and the corresponding disregard of the mountain of counter evidence from police officers, medical practitioners, her own former assistant, other unchallenged witness, an array of documentary evidence, which has completely undermined the allegations point by point. Which I have to say, like, I'm still in shock that all of that was not. For 12 out of 14 is bewildering indeed to me. All of this was overlooked. The judgment is so flawed that it would be ridiculous for Mr. Depp to not appeal this decision. In the meantime, we hope that in contrast to this case, the ongoing libel proceedings in America are equitable, with both parties providing full disclosure rather than one side strategically cherry picking what evidence can and cannot be relied upon. So this is interesting. So you said this. So it's like, in order to decide this verdict, it's a 50-50 shot. It's a he said, she said is really what he's ultimately seemingly coming down to. He needs to have 1% one way or the other, which in theory could be biased towards one person or the other. Is it correct?
Right. I mean, it has to be, right? You
Right.
have to decide that you believe this person more than the other. That's necessarily biased in favor of one person's credibility.
But see, that's where I'm confused. I don't know if this is an English or American difference, but like, I thought it's like, if you're unsure, doesn't that fall into, well, then you haven't proven to me. The Sun printed the words that he did this, like unequivocally, like they're saying he is this person. Whereas it's really Amber Heard who's accusing him of being that person, right? If it had been written as a quote, we wouldn't have an issue here. But the fact that the Sun said it as fact, that's the problem, right? And if it's a 50-50 shot, shouldn't they say, well, you haven't proven it to me. It's a he said, she said. You haven't proven it's a fact. It's an allegation.
Well, there's two problems with what you're saying. One is that the standard you're saying he said, she said, and they have to prove it is a beyond and to the exclusion of any reasonable doubt standard, which is a criminal standard, not a civil standard. The next problem is, I don't know what the case in England is here, but if that was happening in America, they would have had to say he allegedly did this. And that is how people get around stuff like using those
Right.
words. However, the Sun is a tabloid. The tabloid still has a responsibility. But I'd like to know what what the rules are for tabloid publications in England. By the way, side note, the Sun opened up a newspaper here version in America that's owned by Murdoch in January. So that case in England has even more meaning here now.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, this is a big ruling because it's basically saying, that he didn't. I mean, the fact that they don't acknowledge what happened to him and that didn't come into this is really still very sad to me because it's clear she did things back. Now that doesn't warrant if he did things to her. I wasn't there. However, listening to those tapes and everything there was nothing brought. The only thing were photos that were proven by witnesses that weren't there until certain times. And like, to me, there was no other evidence in my research that proved there was any evidence that this actually happened. And in fact, the evidence was the contrary of weighing it the other way of Johnny Depp clearly being the victim in this situation. But what does this mean for him? So this is obviously not good news. This is going to affect his next case, even though it's in America. They're public figures. You said this is not going to be a good thing for him in the future. Correct, for the future case?
It's absolutely not helpful to him. This case is being tried in the media because they're both famous public figures. It is absolutely going to weigh on the minds of anyone who is reading this in American newspapers, who happens to sit on the jury in his next case, and how the judge might view it when he sees them. Yes, the judges are supposed to be neutral arbiters of the law, but they're also human.
Right. So what's the case here if he's going to obviously appeal? That's going to take a while. That's obviously going to take, I imagine, we don't know the British courts and stuff, but I imagine that'll take a while before he'll have to start the other one first. Do you have can an appeal work? Do appeals work?
Yeah, absolutely. Appeals happen all the time. You know, the lower courts, like if an appeals court determines that the lower court didn't follow process or relied on uncredible evidence despite the overwhelming amount of evidence to the contrary, absolutely, stuff gets thrown out on appeal all the time. People are usually depending on the fact that you don't have enough money to pursue an appeal, or that you won't sue an appeal, or that you're tired of court. Appeals do work. That's how, appeals to the highest court, like Supreme Court of the land, that's how laws get overturned and made. So appeals do work, but appeals take a lot of time. They involve a lot more writing, a lot more just a lot more involved things going on. And in England and America, because of what is going on with the P word that we can't say on the YouTube that is slowing down everything, courts aren't open as often, or they're doing Zoom hearings, etc. An appeal in general can take years sometimes, and it's probably going to take even longer in this case.
Right, which is just such a frustrating thing because it felt like he did really put enough evidence out there to put this in doubt, put this in question, and not have it be proven as fact, is why this is a shock, I think, to many. And if someone out there feels like she did, please send it to me. I will happily look into it and we'll see it. But from everything, there's a lot to digest here. But I've gone through the evidence and my my version of it all. I mean, seeing and reading it all, and through my time, I haven't seen anything that said that I proved he did that, and in fact, it was the opposite. And so, this is so interesting. So the appeal will take him a while, and this verdict can affect the next one. But you also, for a silver lining, the American system will be different, potentially in his favor. No, or he'll have more opportunity to really put all the evidence out there. Yes.
In terms of which case, and it depends, right? It really depends on, our libel laws are different for public figures. We don't have to prove geographical relevance. We do have to prove malice. Or we don't have to prove malice, but we have to prove damages for a public figure. But based on what I've seen just coming out in America, and one of Amber Heard's lawyers actually resigned, saying she resigned saying she didn't have a firm in DC, and then her firm opened something in DC. To me, it looks like he'll have a better chance in America, and that the evidence will weigh more in his favor. But we don't know. We're not in the courtroom. We haven't seen the evidence or the witnesses.
And they also filed it in, was it Virginia? Right? They picked a state where he definitely has more opportunity than he would have, say, in California.
Exactly.
So he still has opportunities here, but it's going to be costly and timely for him. Justice for Johnny Depp will not happen anytime soon, sadly. This is very frustrating to read.
And it's definitely going to cost them even more work than it already has.
Right. Which rumors are he's still working, but this will not help him. Anybody who was sort of rubbing him, signing him off will now feel justified in saying, see, I knew it. See ya. Get out of here, Johnny. We don't want you. It was proven. It's frustrating.
Anyone who was on the fence is now going to be, swayed.
This verdict doesn't mean it's the truth still, correct? This could still be something that the judge decided incorrectly or misjudged. That does happen. Yes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, judges decide incorrectly all the time. That's what appeals are for.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's the truth of what happened. It just means the judge took the evidence and that's what he found.
And then and for your final thoughts on this, he should appeal, right? Especially if
absolutely
he should appeal, especially if he's got the other case going. And then if he wins that case, that could help his appeal, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's not supposed to in theory, but again, judges are human, juries are human, people are human. So if he wins a case in America and more evidence and different evidence comes out there and it's splashed across headlines in America and England, then that will also affect his case.
Would you have done both cases like he did? I saw a lot of criticism out there, people saying Johnny shouldn't have put both those cases so quickly back to back because they would be affected. Did you have legal advice there?
It's hard to say. You don't know what happened. Maybe they want it all over. Maybe they think the son was the easiest case to win, and so they wanted to do it because they guessed incorrectly that he would win, and that would help his case in America. You don't know the strategy for what the lawyers are doing, and also, like anything, law and medicine, it's all an art. It's not all pure science. It's an art. So you take a gamble and maybe he lost. I don't know whether I would have sued the son for libel, but I would have thought, based on what I know about the son, that Depp had a pretty good chance of winning based on the son already getting in trouble for 2014 coverage in Liverpool for printing stuff that wasn't true. I'm sorry, not 2014. It was actually 2016. It was only 4 years ago. They've already had a history of problems with printing stuff as the truth that was proven later that wasn't true, right, and winning. So if I was Johnny Depp's attorney and I knew that about the son, I think this was maybe a slam dunk case because it's against the son.
Correct.
But
who's one of the worst papers there are. And it would have seemingly, I'm shocked they just didn't do some sort of retraction.
It's like suing the Inquirer here, right?
It's shocking. So to give the son a win like this, and again, some people are Andy, no, come on, he lost. It is what it is. No, that's why I was sharing this, and I thank you again, Nick Wallace, for putting this out there. He's sort of put together the judge's statements in this thread, which I'll put in the description so you can go through what the judge ruled. And in seeing what the judge ruled, and it's so long, that's why I didn't do it breakdown, but. And seeing what the judge decided, I don't agree with him. I see bias. I see a lot of just jump to decisions that I don't understand how he made those decisions. I've heard the tapes. She's not innocent. She has been caught lying and doing terrible things to him, and so I'm not okay with that. And she ignores it, Lindsay. It's really frustrating. To me, there was probably a toxic relationship on both ends. He was clearly drinking to get out of it. Does that mean he was doing what she's accusing him of doing? No, and that's what's frustrating here. That's apparently an excuse for he must have because he was drinking. That to me it's not a clear cut A to B. That doesn't mean that doesn't translate to me. But lots more to do. Thank you, Lindsay, for bearing with me and doing this with me this early morning, guys. Go support Lindsay Glazer. You can go to lindsayglazer.com or Lindsay Glazer on Twitter. I appreciate it, Lindsay. Anything else you want to add or plug while you're here?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Always good to have you here, guys. See you. Stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. Continue to watch here, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.